defining what was going on with me was important to me strictly to understand. When you name something, you give it meaning. So I needed to find a name for what was happening to me. And this was a time that I was on the hunt for a deeper understanding and realization for what transition am I in right now. Welcome to Phoenix Rising, a superior podcast for all of your transformative tools for personal and spiritual growth. Let's go get that nugget. Hey ladies, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's episode, Phoenix Rising Rebirth. We are figuring stuff out. We are defining things, understanding things, and taking our lives just a little bit deeper with more meaning. That's the journey we're on. And I'm hoping I am finding you ready to spread your wings and take flight with me as we go through Phoenix Rising, the Rebirth. Because the last over 500 episodes was all about different teachings and things that I understood and that I learned and I brought straight to you. But now we're getting a little bit more into an understanding and a deeper layer of transition in our lives as we grow, as women, as people on this planet, as entrepreneurs, whatever place you are in your life. This is the podcast. This is where we take our understanding of life and go just a little bit deeper so we can move a little bit faster. So maybe we can find a little bit more happiness, transition in our lives as we go through transition, from women who are parents and the kids leave the nest. And right in that moment, it's a new identity. The kids have gone. Who am I now? What kind of mom am I? Wait, what's happening? The kids are gone. They've gone to college or they've gotten married or they've moved out. It's like, it's a new identity. And a lot of people sink, a lot of women especially sink right there. I remember when I ran a boot camp, I was a personal trainer years ago and I ran an outdoor boot camp in the area that I live. It's such a beautiful area. And every week we'd be in a new park or a new kind of a beach or a park, different places anyway to do our workouts. And I remember this one particular client was having a really, really hard time with an identity of who am I now that my last son has moved out of the house. And I found it to be really interesting. I didn't take it as serious as it was for her until I lived with Amy and the boys. And Amy is my partner of 15 years, and we have 3 boys. We've raised 3 boys, and one of them is, he's 32 or 31, and he's already moved out a long time ago. He's already married. He's been in this relationship for 10 years, and they are recently pregnant. And it's big news. It was super exciting for Mother's Day, kind of a little side story. But I got a Mother's Day card, and then on the outside it said, Happy Mother's Day. And Grace is my daughter-in-law, and she's just amazing. You just love her. And she made a Mother's Day card, and on the outside it said, Happy Mother's Day. And on the inside it says, and Happy Grandmother's Day. And it took me a second to understand what I was reading. And Amy jumps up and she's like, I knew it. And, Amy has given birth to 2 kids. That's where the other number 2 and number 3 come in. And she jumps up and yells, I knew it. And I'm just like, what are we talking about? And it took me a second, but I'm going to be a grandma. So speaking of identity, and then we have Brandon, who is a 21-year-old. He'll be 21 this year. And he has autism. And then there's Cameron, who's 17 and is finishing up his junior year in high school. So soon, we're talking, 17 months, Amy and I are going to be empty nesters. Cameron's going to go to college and Brandon is kind of in between. He stays at dad's in our house, so he kind of goes in between. And so that's a little bit of a transition. But now talking about identity. So talking about this lady who was my client, and she was having a really, really hard time with her second son. She had 2 boys. The last son is moving out, and he was moving either across the state or out of state or someplace, but he wasn't like moving across the street. And she was having a really hard time with it, and I didn't understand. I didn't fully grasp the shift that she was going through. And then take my mother-in-law, who worked at the hospital as a transcriptionist for years and years and years and years, then worked at home doing the same work. And then the hospital changed their software. So they were basically letting people go where they were using this software program to do their transcription instead of hiring people. And she was having a hard time. She's like, basically, I'm moving into retirement unbeknownst to me and not really my choice, but I kind of have to. I don't want to keep working. I don't want to find another job. And they're not keeping people on, like they're using the software program. And she was having a hard time. And I'm like, dude, like, I found it to be this, like, I didn't understand. I didn't fully understand. But now fast forward, I don't know, 8-10 years, and I'm in this place that I am in a transitional state in my life, a new identity, and I'm trying to find meaning. Have you ever come across something like this? Now, there's a whole bunch of them. You turn around and look back at your past, no matter how old you are. Like if you're in your 30s and above, you look back at your past, there's lots of identity shifts. You go from diapers to now using the bathroom. You go from riding the school bus to driving a car. You go from high school to college or high school to jobs. You go from single to dating someone, dating to marriage, possibly. You go from marriage maybe to owning a house together, living with your parents to living not with your parents. Then you go from being whatever woman to now I'm a mother. And now, you know what I mean? So, and as you keep going, you change these identities. And a lot of times we go easily. We go easily from not driving to driving. Like, I don't know about you, but that was so exciting for me to become a driver. And, but now you look at your life and you go, okay, look back at all those different identity shifts that you have made. Were any of them difficult for you? Did you have a hard time with any single one of them where you just like, wait, I don't want to go? Going from working full time to retired, or you got fired, or you quit, or empty nesters. Any of those big transitions, dating someone for a long period of time to now single, whether divorced or break up or whatever. There's lots of identities. So this led me to understanding what was going on with me. Now, I didn't have some outward experience like the ones I just described, like going from dating somebody or being with someone for a long time and then now newly single, or living with kids to now I'm an empty nester, or I'm working full time to now I'm not. I didn't have that outward transition. I just woke up one day and I'm like, what the flip is going on with me? What is happening? And I had this coaching business, and I had this, this podcast with over 500 episodes. I had these courses online. I had this group, this Facebook group, none of which were so incredibly blossoming, but they were different parts of me. And I woke up one day and I was facing a brick wall that I'm like, I don't want to record anymore. I don't want to push anymore. I don't want to create courses anymore. I don't want to engage with people on Facebook anymore. I don't want to coach anymore. I don't want to speak anymore. I didn't want to do anything. So now for me, what I do, and I don't know if you do this or not, but I like to understand what's happening. I like to dive deep into the learning field and try to figure out what's going on. I need words. I need language to describe it. Here I'm waking up, I'm heavy, I'm tired, I feel, but I'm not tired. Like I could get up and I could do something, but my life had no meaning. All of a sudden, my life had no meaning, but still life is happening. I still have to get up and do stuff. I have dogs to take care of. I have a family to take care of. I have a wife that I love and adore. How do I do this? How do I navigate this? So during this time, what I do is I turn to all my spiritual books. So I start pulling out these old authors that I used to read. Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, Thomas Troward, Genevieve Berend. These are all like early 1900s books, spiritual books I used to read. I'm not sure what attracted me to that years and years ago, but so I started reading these books and I came across a couple of different phrases or language to help me understand what I was going through, which then kind of gave me a grip, if you will. Like I'm like, I can't just sit in bed all day. I want to, but I can't. And I don't want to. Like I want my life to have meaning. So these, and you've probably heard of these before. You probably have heard of these words. I just mentioned it in the last episode, is Dark Night of the Soul. Now that's a spiritual version. I'm not sure where it came from. I started exploring Carl Jung, and he's a little bit over my head, but I started really kind of diving into some of his his language and understanding is like this individuation process. So think of the individual kind of transitioning, changing. In the last episode, I talked about the butterfly, and it was really apparent that I was going through some spiritual ego death or some spiritual transition, but I just wasn't sure how to navigate. So tell me, have you ever felt like that? Where you're just like, I was really happy, I was going forward, things were happening, and now I look at my life and I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? Well, here's another one. Individuation, that's individuation process. That was one from Carl Jung. Another one is an identity crisis, or a nervous system breakdown, or a midlife crisis. Now, so far in our lives, I mean, there's lots of science that's happening trying to help humans stay alive for longer. But typically in my lifetime, I'm 53 years old. In my lifetime, I kind of hear about people living right around 100 years old, give or take, right? But the average person can live to be, like 100. And you hear occasionally of someone living to 104, 110. And then I think, oh, yeah, I'm 50 years old. That's midlife. This is a midlife crisis. What the hell does that even mean? What do I do with this information? So I began studying like holy moly. Like I researched the depth of things. Google, YouTube, books, the library, courses, articles, blogs, everything. And of course, if you look at the internet, all this information is right at our fingertips. So I was absorbing like crazy video after video on YouTube, like Carl Jung. I'm trying to think of, Florence Scovel-Shinn, Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, all these same authors. Some are new, some kind of came in, but again, early 1900s. And I'm not sure, again, I don't know why early 1900s, but anyway, so I began just absorbing this information. Like, I'm not kidding, 20 different videos a day, all day long, when I'm going to sleep, when I'm waking up, all day, just trying to understand what was happening. And I think that all of my education in meditation and manifesting, energy work, chakra work, intuitive work, subconscious versus conscious mind, brain waves. I mean, all of these things I have studied the crap out of. And for 20 some years, like 25 years or some crazy thing. And I think all of that studying now is coming to a head. All of that knowledge that I want to share with you over the course of everything, of course, of my podcast, that just on your way to work, you can kind of get little nuggets here where you're just getting a base understanding of what's happening to you or what your life is about or what you can do with your life, and through my podcast or through my courses, through coaching programs, and all of those things are going to come back because that's a way that I like to teach. But all of that was coming to a head now specifically in my life because before it was an interest. It was an area of interest for me that someone told me that I have no control of my life, that, quote, God was in control. And immediately when somebody would say that to me, I'm like, no, that's not true. And intuitively, I knew that it wasn't true. But now and I sought, my promise to myself is to go find the answer to that. Now, of course, this is, 1980s. There wasn't computers. We didn't have phones in our pockets. We didn't have YouTube or Facebook or Google or anything. It's a couple of books here and there. And I grew up in a very, 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 very small town, graduated with 42 people. And our library didn't have books like that. Not saying they didn't exist. They did, but not at our school library. And I didn't know anything. I just was intuitive inside and I knew to practice things. But anyway, so as I learned all of this, it is now coming to a head. So this dark night of the soul, this midlife crisis that I was experiencing, I was able to journal my experience because I knew that once I got through this, and I had no idea how long this was going to last. A week was forever. And at the end of it, and I'm not at the end of my transition. I'm not at the end, but I'm definitely on the other side of this dark tunnel that I walked through for like 18 months. That's a long, long time. But compared to others, compared to my family, my parents, my older brother, they're still walking in it. And they have no idea what's wrong with them. Quote, wrong. Nothing's wrong. They just don't understand the transition. They're like stuck in the chrysalis and they don't know how to get out. And I try to help them, but we all have different beliefs, and I can't help them. I can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped or thinks this is just life. Life is miserable. When you get older, your body starts deteriorating. Things just become boring. Life is the same. It's mundane. Do you feel that way? Have you ever felt that way? Where life is just this cycle that we go in? Like, what's the purpose of it? Well, I don't know about you, but I want meaning in my life. I want a meaningful life at the end of my days. I want to look back and go, yeah, I had one hell of a journey and I helped people and I taught some things and I left a legacy. So my dark night of the soul, if you will, in retrospect was short-lived because in 18 months in my whole entire life of 53 years, 18 months is really just a commercial break. It's just a short period of time. But I learned so much. I learned so much about myself. I learned even more about how the universe works, how I work, how intuition works. My role in this life is becoming clearer. It's not defined completely yet. Like, I don't know what business I'm going to bring to fruition. It changes all the time, sometimes daily. But the topic, the thing that I'd love to talk about, doesn't change. That's this. That is energy work and healing and transformation and life, like identity. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And that's what I want to kind of start sharing with you over this new rebirth podcast, is helping you to make these transitions, these new identities. Because when we can step into a new identity, we're off and running, right? Like, go back to something when you were a teenager, before you could do something to now you can. Like, we're living at home, and if you have a high freedom need or a high power need, you're just like, oh gosh, if I could just be on my own, I can do anything I want. And then you get to that stage and you just like let loose. The wings come out and you start flying to all the flowers in the garden. And that was me. When I got my driver's license, I'm like, I'm out. And I was just driving everywhere. I love to drive. And even now, even today, I love driving. Just get in the car and just drive. Now at $5 a gallon, it makes it a little bit challenging, but I still do it. I still love it. I get in the car and I drive and I drive and I drive. And we have a beautiful area here in northern Michigan. So that was also part of my journey. It's getting into, once there's an identity shift, the things that come with that are new behavior. And the things that are the base foundation of everything I teach is this cycle of thoughts that are our words, that become our words, that become our beliefs, that become our emotional state consistency, that go out into the world, sending out a vibration that kind of attract certain opportunities and things that kind of match that vibration. That's where I love to work. And when I think of this new identity that I'm stepping into now versus the one that I've got, I still have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I still have 1 foot in the old version of me, and I have 1 foot in that's the new version of me, and I'm still figuring it out as I go. But knowing how my thoughts and my words and my beliefs, my emotions all kind of work in this cyclical way, I now have a little bit more balance. I have acquired even more tools for me personally, things that work for me personally that help me to feel better, to understand how I work in this world. And over the next several episodes, I'm going to give myself some labels, but also at the same time, those labels don't define me completely, right? Like, I can say that I'm a woman. Okay, that's one. And that defines my human form, but that doesn't define me completely. I'm still a spiritual being in this woman physical body, right? Then I could also say that I'm gay. Okay, well, that defines me in this physical form, in this human experience, but that doesn't define me completely, right? Are you guys with me? So I can say, like, I took this course, and here's another label, and some of you might identify with this, is that I have ADHD. And I'm like, son of a biscuit. Like, are you kidding me? But it's not going to define me. It just means that my brain works a little bit differently. And if you have ADHD, I hope that you don't let it define you completely, meaning that it doesn't limit you, that you find a different way to work because your brain works differently. I like big visual things, and I also need lots of breaks, and I also need to manage my physical environment because I'm also intuitive. Oh, and an empath. And I found out that I have this new thing, again, not going to limit me, but it's called rejection sensitive dysphoria, RSD, meaning that it is when I feel like somebody is rejecting me or judging me or criticizing me, that I have this real physical pain around that thing. People when I was younger were like, dude, why you're so uptight? I used to hear that all the time. You're so uptight. You could just relax, or you're so sensitive. And then those things didn't mean anything to me, but they do now, because that to me was just you labeling me and telling me that I should be more like you. But what it means is that I'm an empath, that I feel things differently than the average person. And maybe you relate to this. Maybe you're also an empath. Maybe all this language that I'm throwing at you today, we're going to go over this over the next several episodes, and it's just going to get plugged in because this was part of my journey. ADHD, RSD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria, then being an empath, being highly intuitive, all of these things were like, what is going on? Right? Oh, let's define all of that. And I started reading Judy Dyer's books. I bought I think she's got 4 books out. Well, I bought 4 that pertain to me. She has more books than that, but I read them in a second, one sitting, and they're pretty small. But I told Amy, I said, you want to understand more about me? Here, read this book. Like, holy crap, you guys. When I started reading that I was an empath, no freaking wonder I don't want to go to big crowds or big parties or big gatherings, which is why when I walk in the door, it physically pains me if there is discord among the people that are there. Like, you've got to be kidding me. And I was like, and all of her books are about the empath, a complete guide for developing your empathic skills, the power and sensitivity. Like, there's lots of them. So she definitely helped open the doors for me. Now, again, in this episode, I mostly just want to give you some language. I want to give you some language and how it related to me. I hope that it opened the doors for you a little bit to understand that along my journey, as I sat in this journey and I started journaling all of these different things, these new information I was getting from all these videos and all these teachings that I was watching, how it pertained to me during this identity shift that I was going through, I thought, I'm going to keep all this information because I'm going to want to share this with somebody. I'm going to want to put this back on the podcast or share this out in the world. And now this is me sharing it with you. So if you relate to this, I think it's important to begin journaling. And because I now can go back, because I'm not going to remember all of that. I remember, the length, I remember the stuff, I remember this day or that day or this thing or that thing that happened, but I'm not going to remember enough of it, the big nuggets, to be able to share, to be able to look back and go, oh, that's right. So here's me. This was September 30th, 2024. This is in my journal. So, this is me. Okay. So, quote, since mid 2017, I have felt like I was thrust into someone else's body. After my surgery, I had a tumor that I grew. It was pushing on my bladder. I needed to have it removed. And they did a full hysterectomy and oophorectomy. And an oophorectomy is when they take both your ovaries. So I was thrust into, what do you call it? It's called artificial menopause. So holy crap, menopause is all by itself, but man. So now I feel like so now back to my journal entry. I was dealing with emotional discomfort, anxiety, depression, confusion, distress, lack of direction, low value, no purpose, etc. This went on for a few years. Dude, nobody should have to go through that. Nobody should have to go through that. Have you ever experienced this? Where all of a sudden you are like a different person. I literally felt like I was thrust into someone else's body. And so when things were happening, this was scary. Things, like I said, life is still going on. You have a partner, you have kids, you have dogs, you have a job, you have work, you have whatever. Money still has to be made, bills still have to be paid. And I'm in someone else's body trying to figure out, you ever seen any of those movies where it's like 13 going on 30 or Freaky Friday or any one of those? They're funny unless you're going through it. Because this shit was scary. This shit was scary. Am I going to survive this? I was in some really dark places. And it was important to me to figure it out. And understand at a emotional level, but understand at this deeper level of not only what is going on, but how do I get through this? How do I come out on the other side? And when is it going to end? You know, like when you get the flu, you kind of know that, you know, you get the flu on Monday. You kind of know that, you know, all right, today is going to be, you know, the headache and maybe throwing up or diarrhea or whatever, feeling bad, the chills, whatever. And you take some medication or you bring the bucket to the bedroom and you just sleep it off, you know, drink water, whatever. And then, you know, by Tuesday, you should be feeling a little bit better, maybe a little bit of vomiting, you know what I mean? Just kind of go through it. But you just know somewhere in your body, somewhere in your mind, you know that it's not going to last forever. You just have to get through it, right? But by Wednesday or Thursday, you should be feeling pretty good. You might still be tired, but you know that the vomiting is going to stop. Something like this, that is like out of my control, I didn't know when it was going to stop. I didn't know that it was going to go on for 18 months. I didn't know that I was going to feel better by Thursday. So I needed to dig in and figure some things out. So I did. I started digging in and figuring things out. And I did that through learning. And I also did it by creating a different practice for myself. And that came back to meditation. And it came back to intentional living. That today I am going to whatever. I want to give you one tool that I'm going to talk about a lot. I just learned this recently, but it is a really, really powerful tool. It's in 4 categories that just helps me to kind of regulate. You know, in the last episode, I talked about like nervous system dysregulation, that I was not regulated and I needed some tool, simple, that would help me to get regulated and really kind of manage that. But it was up to me to do it. And so there's 4 categories. I'll tell you the categories and then I'll define them. Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So those 4 categories. And I'll tell you the definitions. Mental is basically the mental energy. So like when you're working, you're creating something, maybe you're writing, you're at work, and you need mental energy like to problem solve, discern things, solve problems, whatever. You're using mental energy for that. That's also content. Like when you're bringing in content, reading, learning, even scrolling. Scrolling can be kind of a numbing thing. But it still uses mental energy because you have to understand what you're scrolling or reading or a video you're watching. So it still uses mental energy. Okay. The next is emotional, which is my physical emotional state, you know, anxiety, depression, happiness, love, joy, anger, frustration, all of those is managing that. Like, that's the emotional piece. It's also your connection with other people. How are your relationships? How are your interactions with people? That's your emotional energy. The next one is your physical energy. You know, like if you're hardworking and physical, like you do physical labor, you can only do it for so long and you need a break, right? And spiritual is meaning and purpose in life. So for example, let's pretend I have a full-time job. Let's say I'm a mechanical engineer, uses a lot of mental energy. I'm in the middle of a project. I'm trying to create something or whatever, a lot of mental energy. Maybe I'm sitting all day at a desk and I work with a group of people that maybe I don't get along with well, or a little bit bossy, or I don't know, I just don't like them that much, or we just don't have great relationships, but I have to work with them. It's my job. And then the spiritual is just like, this isn't really what I want to do. Like I don't get a lot of feedback from this. I don't love it that much. It doesn't feel good, you know, to go to work. All of those numbers on a scale from 1 to 10 to really simplify this tool is really low. So over the course of your life, is your life on average, it's the collective of all of these areas. On average, is your life amazing or not? On average, if you had to answer, I'd probably say not. Okay. Now, if my mental state, so let's go back to the tool. each of these 4 categories, I want to rate on any regular basis from 1 to 10. And I want to find ways, for me specifically, how do I increase this? How do I increase this area? Mental. What do I got to do? What's really good for me? Go out and walk the dogs. Go out and walk some laps in your backyard. Go pull some weeds. Go do something that basically is mindless. I don't need to problem solve. I don't need to think about anything. I'm just doing this. Sweep the deck, leaf blow, stuff like that. Rake leaves, things that just don't need mental capacity. But it also doesn't mean scrolling endlessly on Facebook or reading a book or watching a YouTube video, because I recognize that does not increase my energy. So anyway, finding each of these, and I'm going to keep going through this over, keep touching on this through the next episodes, instead of going through all 4 of those, because it's now, over 30 minutes. But I found that that's what I needed to start doing. And I did that on a kind of a broader scale, because I just learned this tool just a little while ago, I think last week. And it broke it down more. Well, before I was like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how do I feel? That was just in general. Well, I'm a 4. Okay, well, what do I do to be a 5? I used to teach that. But that was almost too vague for me. In this new identity, in this new shift, I needed something more important. I needed something a little bit more specific. So this tool with the 4 categories really, really helps. And I really love it. And you're absolutely welcome to use it. And I hope you do. But I definitely needed a new practice. And what I felt like back then was to renew all 4 stages, all 4 of these categories. What I really wanted to do is sit and do nothing. So now what happened is that started putting me in this, quote, space, saying all the time, I just want more space. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about creating space. We're going to talk about how to do that, why you should do it, ways to do it. I'm making notes so I can make sure I cover these in the next episode. But this was really important, and I want to end there, because that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode. So I hope you stay tuned. I hope you keep going on this journey with me. I hope you get out your journal. I want to give you some nuggets, but it's going to be a different journey this time around. And if you are feeling pulled to join me on this journey, please visit my website, theenrichmentacademy.com. There's free resources there, and my community on Facebook, like Jen Mack on Facebook. So come and find me, send me a friend request, or however it is now, because I have the digital creators page, and just connect with me. Send me a direct message. Say, hey, you know what? I feel you. I've been going through the same thing, and I'm happy to, have a chat with you. That's where I'm at right now. And if you are feeling down or low, I hope you continue joining me on this journey, because I will tell you this, there is light at the end of this tunnel. I don't know how long your tunnel is for you per se, but I'm here to walk right beside you, and I hope you will join me. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear this too. It truly helps this work reach more people. If you'd like to go deeper or support the podcast, you can find everything linked in the show notes, including a way to support the show or explore my upcoming events, circles, and free resources. I'm really grateful you're here. I hope this episode met you exactly where you are and gave you just one nugget of inspiration towards your transformation.